Evening? We have to call it.
There's a reason. There's a reason why I can't let it go. Why did
and ugly. The daughter was squatting in her father's home. You might have been. The dream has been holed up.
I'd like to welcome you all to tonight's event, the Pathways, Your Questions Answered panel discussion. I'm looking forward to this event, and I think it's a great opportunity for all of us to have another rethink about pathways and how we're going to move forward in it. This is an opportunity for you to ask your questions. Hopefully we'll get through all of the questions that everybody has there to ask. If not, we might have to run it again. We have received a number of questions, but we do really want your participation from the audience. As per normal etiquette on Zoom, please keep yourself muted unless you're speaking, just so that we can actually all focus and hear the speakers. Please also, if you're going to get up, walk away, have something really nice for dinner, please turn your video feed off. But I really want everybody to participate and enjoy this evening. And with that, I would like to hand over to Cherie for the inspiration. Please welcome Cherie.
Passive development is a lot like a rubber band. It can stretch us, it can propel us to distances we could not have imagined, or it can snap back and bite us, leaving us a bit sore and sorry for ourselves. Have you ever tried to start a new habit? Have you ever said to yourself, I'm going to start a fitness plan and I'm going to buy this Ab Pro Master and work out every day for 3 months until I've got 6-pack abs? After a week or two, you no longer use it, and you have to put up with its cynical, evil glares as you pass it by in the lounge room, until one day in a KFC-induced frenzy of guilt and procrastination, you do the only sane thing and put it in the shed. Or is that just me? Have you ever tried to stretch yourself and do something a bit crazy? Have you ever tried to learn a new language, trek across an nullarbor, or join Toastmasters? What usually happens? Like a rubber band, we all start from a neutral position until one day we have an urge or a desire to be somewhere or do something we haven't done before. Lose weight, get fit, be nicer. We start making an effort. We initially feel good and the rubber band starts to stretch. Propelled by our progress, we lift a few more weights, give a few more Toastmasters speeches, and the rubber band stretches some more until you and the rubber band are fully stretched. It's at this point, at this moment of tension and exertion, any one of 3 things can happen. The first thing that usually happens is that life happens, or people will start saying, why are you trying so hard? Have a break. Let's go out drinking. Or, careful, you're going to fail and look like a fool. And if others don't say it, we'll even say it to ourselves. Slowly, the weight of life, others, and our lack of discipline weighs us down, drags us back until the rubber band relaxes and we return to that neutral position. The second thing that can happen is that we take charge of life. We don't heed the naysayers and we tell the voice inside to sit down, shut up, and hang on for the ride. And we allow our goals, our dreams, our new habits to pull us up to new positions, and we enjoy the fruits of our efforts. By stretching ourselves and using the tension we created, we allow ourselves to arrive at a new place. Finally, the third thing that can happen is that we go harder than before. We exercise to another level and smash through those plateaus. We bust our butts to exercise like a demon. We live with the passion that others cannot understand but still admire. Through the sheer will and force of what we are doing, our limiting past beliefs go and the rubber band flings forward and shoots off into the stratosphere. Then one day you wake up a different person, in a different place, in a different world. Not because anything has changed, but because a while ago you decided to change yourself and you never gave up. Be like a rubber band. Go stretch yourself. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Cherie. That's actually a very timely speech and a really good one. It's time for us to be flexible. So thank you, Cherie, for that. And now it's time for why we're all here. Please welcome Tom Bielski as the moderator of the panel discussion. Tom Bielski.
Thank you very much, Julie. And firstly, I would like to give you my appreciations for organizing this panel. My name is Tom Bielski, and I have been a Toastmaster for about 10 years. And at first, when Pathways came out about 4 years ago, I was a little bit hesitant. Toastmasters has been in District 17 for almost 4 years, and yet the sheer number of people who are interested in a Q&A panel discussion about Pathways is testimony to how challenging this can be sometimes. So Julie, thank you for taking the initiative in starting this up. Today we have 4 panelists today for your discussion. Panelists will talk about Pathways first, and then we will open up the floor to discussion. You can ask questions via raising your arm through the non-verbal feedback in the panel participant chat panel. If you open up the participant channel from the control menu of your Zoom window, you will find that you have a raise hand reaction. Please raise your hand if you would like to ask a question. But firstly, I would like to introduce your panelists today. When I find the first one on my screen. Jeff, can you say a few words?
Hi, Tom. Yeah, I'm here.
Awesome. Thank you, Jeff. Okay, so our first panelist today is Jeff Zhang. Now, Jeff joined a brand new Toastmasters club starting up at his workplace, Chevron, in early 2019. This was after Pathways rollout to District 17. So Pathways is all he knows. He was quickly elected to the role of club secretary and then club president. He led his club to president's distinguished status this year with 22 new members and 21 Pathways levels completed. He is also a member and a future officer of 2 advanced clubs in District 17. Jeff was elected to serve as secretary for DTM Pathways Club, a club focusing on helping members achieve the Distinguished Toastmaster Award, and as Vice President of Education for Leading Lights Club for the upcoming year. At the same time, he will also serve the district as Area Director for Area I-41, which includes his home club, ABU Toastmasters. Jeff has recently finished his first path, Effective Coaching, and expects to finish his second path, Dynamic Leadership, in the next 3 months. He has also started on his third path, Strategic Relationships, and aims to complete his Distinguished Toastmaster Award after serving as a district officer, coaching or mentoring a new club, and organizing the Speechcraft course. Please join me in welcoming Jeff Zhang. Our second speaker is Nuwan Wirakun. Nuwan joined Toastmasters 2 years ago. Like Jeff, he has not known the previous educational program and was brought up on Pathways. He is a founding and charter member of Kenwick Toastmasters Club, the district's only second Sunday club. Nuwan took on the role of president of the club in 2018-19 and led the club to achieve President's Distinguished status, growing from 9 to 14 members with 9 pathway levels achieved. He was selected as the Southern Division President of the Year, and his club was selected as the Southern Division Club of the Year. Congratulations. Nuwan has finished one path, Persuasive Influence, and is currently working on Presentation Mastery. Please join me in welcoming Nuwan Wirakun. Our third panelist today is Liz Fisher. Liz worked for most of her life as a medical scientist with Path West at Princess Margaret Hospital and the Queen Elizabeth II Medical Centre. She retired from that job in 2019. She has been a Toastmaster for 18 years And finally, after retirement, she earned her Distinguished Toastmaster Award in 2019. Liz was a charter member of Subiaco Early Birds, where she was a member for 15 years until 2017. Currently, she's a member of 2 other clubs. Liz has held many officer roles and served as a club coach for Banyanda Toastmasters, guiding the club to achieve President's Distinguished status in 1819. Liz also served as area governor in District 17's first year as a district. Liz served as the Revitalized Education Program Ambassador, and when the program was rebranded to Pathways, she became the Pathways Chief Ambassador for District 17. She is currently completing the Leadership Development Path and has begun the Presentation Mastery Path. Please join me in welcoming Liz Fisher. And our final panelist for today is Julie Dall. Julie joined Southern River Toastmasters in February 2017, being totally petrified of public speaking. She first completed the Competent Communicator Manual in September of that year, after which, initially reluctantly, she started on Pathways, commencing the Innovative Planning Path. At the same time, Julie joined the committee of her club in the role of Vice President of Education, being determined to make Pathways work for her club. She is solution-focused in her approach and determined to find ways to solve any issues arising for her members. She guided the club to President's Distinguished status in 1718 and 1819, with 31 Pathways levels completed in 1819, 14 of which were level 1. At first, Julie, like many of us, struggled with Pathways, but began to enjoy her path at level 3. Not having many leadership opportunities before Toastmasters, she was very impressed with the leadership projects in levels 4 and 5. Julie completed her first path in March 19, and looking back, realized how much she learned and benefited from her path. She completed her second path, Strategic Relationships, which she really enjoyed, in November 2019. Since then, she has also completed another enjoyable path, her third, Persuasive Influence. She is now working concurrently on 4 more paths. How does she find the time? Well, having so many paths to work on, she feels she can deliver a level 1 or 2 project speech at any time, and then can focus on a particular skill in level 3. Projects in level 4 and 5 provide rewarding challenges that she would never have volunteered for before. Julie says Pathways is not perfect, but she believes that it gives a great range of opportunities to grow in more areas than just public speaking. Please join me in welcoming Julie Dall. Ladies and gentlemen, that is your panel. We're going to start very quickly with a brief overview of what Pathways is about. I would like to ask Liz. Liz, can you please tell us what is exactly Pathways and how is it different to the old program? Liz.
Thank you, Tom. Well, Pathways is what Toastmasters International originally called their Revitalized Education Program. And that began some years ago, and they thought it would just take a year or 2 to implement, but in fact it took a lot longer, because once they started, they realized they really needed to build from the ground up. So in doing that, they looked at all the competencies that the old system included, and with the new system, they introduced a lot more competencies, and also they wanted to modernize the program and make it more applicable to the real world that we live in now. And so therefore they introduced a lot more leadership skills and projects. And because it's basically been rebuilt, this is the reason why we can't take our awards and projects from the legacy program and get credit for them in Pathways. Excuse me. the basis of pathways. The full name is Pathways Learning Experience because it's an experiential learning as you go program at your own pace. There are currently 11 paths from which you can choose. New members get one path. The paths are, shall I say, there are 2 paths that are basically public speaking, and the other 9 paths have different varying degrees of types of leadership projects. Each path is divided into 5 levels of increasing complexity, and each level is divided up into a number of projects. Even if you choose a strong leadership path, you are still going to be doing public speaking. You will still have speeches to give in conjunction with those leadership projects. So that is basically how Pathways works. There is a lot more choice. You can tailor your paths to suit your needs. So while there are some projects that you have to do, you have a wide variety of electives to choose from as well to complement the other projects in your path. So I think that about sums it up. Tom, thank you.
Thanks, Liz, for the great overview of how Pathways works. Now, most people are members of a single club, so this may often not arise for them, but there are others who are dual members and are wondering how would being a member of two clubs affect the Pathways experience. Nuwan, would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Thank you, Tom. In terms of dual members, actually, I'm a dual member of 2 clubs, which is Kenwick Toastmasters and Willetton Toastmasters. If you look at how it caters for dual members, I think it works perfectly. For example, the way I plan it is, I'm a dual member of 2 clubs and I have 2 paths that I'm running with. So that way I have given one path to Kenwick Toastmasters and another path to Willetton Toastmasters. Because I find, like, personally, if I'm doing speeches on a path, on a club, the club deserves all the credit that goes with it. So therefore, it's very easy. So what I will do is I'll just share my screen for a minute, if that is okay, Tom. Hang on. Can you guys see this screen clearly?
Yes, we can.
Cool. So when you log in, like if you are registered with 2 clubs, what you will see is when you go to Pathways, and if you go to Basecamp itself, you will see under Access My Path through Basecamp, select your club. In my scenario, Kenwick Toastmaster is my home club itself. So it is picked up. So for example, now if you go to, like, if I want to do a speech under Willetton Toastmasters, which is my other club, all what I need to do is from the drop-down menu, pick the club you want to do the speech itself. So in this case, so if I pick Willetton Toastmasters, it even asks whether you want to make that as your home club itself. So you just press continue, and then you go to the Basecamp itself, and then straight away you can pick the path what you're doing. The advantage of doing this way is, so the first thing what you do is once you finish the path, once you finish a module, you have to submit it. So when you submit it, your VP Education or the president will have to approve your submission. So if you do a part, like a module under Kenwick Toastmasters, and if you submit it via the correct club, then it goes to the correct VPE. Does this mean you have to follow this model? Of course not. Sometimes there are situations that you forget to do the path on one club, but you just wanted to deliver the speech itself. Of course, you get an evaluation done. So once you get your evaluation sheet itself, what I would normally do is I would email it to my VPE plus CC it to my other club's VPE whom I did the path itself. If I have the time, I would say this Sunday I'm going into Willerton Toastmasters and I'll be delivering the speech itself. So it's all about Toastmasters, it's all about communication, and this is all about communication as well. And there's no hard and fast rules, but the Toastmaster website itself is catering for pathways in a brilliant way. Over to you, Tommy.
Thanks, Niman, for that. I am a member of multiple clubs as well, and I at first struggled myself with that. Thanks for pointing that out. Thanks for actually also showing us the new pathways module. I know that Toastmasters has worked hard to revitalize everything. One thing they've done is made it easier for us to look up ahead of what the projects are above our level. But a number of members have been asking, do we have to complete our projects in order? Can we skip from level 2 to level 4 and then go back to level 3? Jeff, can you please address that one?
Yeah, thank you, Tom. So for my personal situation, actually, I love that. I love to do whatever suits my current situation, particularly is because I'm a home club, it's a corporate club. What I do, I want to quite closely link to my work or personal life, any situation pop up. For me to do that, the first thing actually most important is do a bit mapping. You go through all the level 3, the selective. What I've done, I go through all the projects, have a quick review to see what that involves. So in the back of my mind, I know roughly what kind of options available there for me to select. So along the journey, when I see my work situation or my personal situation, anything pop up, I say, oh, that one quite fitting. I will choose that path, use the Toastmaster, the project material, help guide my way to do the project well. That I found really very good synergy. Also provide motivation. So what I learn, I immediately use, I see the result to get me keep moving. So one example is like as the secretary, I found our club need to do a club success plan. My level 3 project for my path is reaching consensus. That's a perfect situation. I gather our committee member together. I draft a success plan. Let's agree, let's map it. Eventually, that's where lead us to do this year, the President Distinguished Club. Also for level 4, I got some work-related online meeting with the US, UK participant. So I thought that's a good chance. Let me learn what's a proper way to do a better online meeting. So I use that project as a guidance to organize my meeting. Really helps. Lots of small things I not think about during I review the project material. It's pop up. Then I immediately implement them and use them. That's really helpful. For level 5, actually, I do one thing. I got the paper select by an international conference, also work related. I thought that's a perfect opportunity. I do one present as a professional speaker that project. So all this is more like when things pop up in my workplace or in my personal life, I match them. But to do that, I think you have a good mentor. Maybe that's another aspect of Toastmaster, can help you, guide you through. You say, I want to do this. Is that an opportunity? They say, yeah, why not? Because you got a good guidance and also you have a mapping on the project available. So really for the path, you can see I got 3. I got quite jump around. Whenever I see their work-related situation, I just do it. So for level 1, level 2, they are standard. They are more flexible. But for whenever there's level 3 onwards, I see there's a perfect opportunity, I will just do it. Pass back to you, Tom.
Thanks, Jeff. That's an excellent idea. I found I had a similar issue when I completed the first couple levels of my first path. I found that the preparation time needed to go into level 4 was too much. And so I went back and started a second level. And that's possibly why many of us have 2 or 3, 4 levels running at the same time, paths rather. Okay, it's time for your questions. If you open up the participant panel and click on the non-verbal reaction, raise your hand, I will ask a question to our panelists. We already have one question from Cherie. Cherie, would you like to unmute yourself now? And please ask your question.
Thanks, Tom. My question is for Yuan. I have five, well, I will have 5 parts for the 5 clubs that I'm in, doing the similar thing that you're doing. But I was wondering about the changing the home club thing. I went to do that the other day and it said, did I want to change home club? And I accidentally clicked continue. And then I was like, cancel, 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 because I didn't know what the repercussions of that was going to be. So it doesn't actually matter if we're swapping the home club, which club is our home club, with each part. And I wasn't aware that if I changed the club to the home club, when I finish a path or finish a project, that the VP for the club that I've changed it to gets an email. Is that what you said? Can you just clarify that for me?
Terry, I think first of all, the first question was like changing. Yes, Toastmasters has that message comes up saying that you are changing your the home club. It scared me as well, and I was thinking first time for about good 5 minutes, should I press OK or not? Because always the pop-up messages scares us. But it's nothing, because it's just once you set it, so then everything turns back to Willerton if you set it like as your home club, because then you whatever you do under that club goes part of Willerton itself. So going back to your second question, what I've seen is like, for example, sometimes like you will do your level 1, module 1, and then once you finish it, you have to submit it. So when you submit it, if your home club is Kenwick Toastmasters, then it will go, email will be going to the VPE and the president saying that this member has submitted this, can you please approve it? So in this case, so if you had Willerton as your home club and if you submit it, it will go to the VPE of Willerton. But if you had Kenwick, then it will go to the VPE of Kenwick itself. Is that the same that you guys like, have you seen like you guys get the emails to submit to confirm that the person has finished? In our case, we always get those emails. So we have to confirm yes, and then only.
Thanks, Noah. That's actually.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that that's what would happen. That's really good, because it's going to make it a lot easier for my VPEs to track what I'm doing if I can swap it myself. That's good to know. Thank you.
Thanks, Cherie. Thanks, Noan. There was actually a question submitted to the panel in the last couple of days about the link between Basecamp and Club Central. Now, at the moment, you have to, one officer has to approve the level completion in Basecamp and another one has to lodge it in Club Central. I've tried to find any information about whether there will be a link between the two. I haven't been able to locate any at this stage, unfortunately.
There's no link.
There's no link, Tom. There's no link. You had to do it. It's a 2-step process.
Okay, so we have another question coming up from Juliana. Juliana, please, what is your question?
Thanks, Tom. My question is about when... Start my video. Yes. Tom, my question is about when I submit someone's award and I do it via Club Central, we get 2 emails, similar emails. Can you tell us what that is?
Who'd like to have a go at that? Julie, you've been an officer for... Liz, go ahead, Liz.
Juliana, I don't really know why that happens. And all I can suggest is that perhaps because it's going to the VPE and the president, maybe that's why, but I don't usually worry about it. But I guess if you are concerned, you should contact Toastmasters and ask them.
Thanks, Liz. Julie, would you like to add to that?
Yes, I just wanted to backpedal a bit on this email being sent to the VP and the president. When you update your club information in Basecamp in Club Central, the email that you use there is the one that gets the emails that people have completed levels in Basecamp. So it only goes to one email. Now, some people have set it up so that email is then forwarded to different people, but really the email only goes to one person. The emails that Juliana's talking about, which come back to confirm that the level completion has been done, to be honest, Juliana, I've actually not read them closely either. I'm not quite sure if one's a Basecamp one and one's a Club Central one, or if they're both Club Centrals. But yes, I think it's just Toastmasters wanting to let us know that the award has been submitted. I have had situations in the past where I have submitted an award in Basecamp for somebody and then gone and checked the next day and actually found that the award didn't take for some reason. And I didn't get emails on those ones. So I think it really just confirms that it actually has done it and has been processed. I will read them next time, I promise.
Interesting. I'm so glad there is so much clarity about Basecamp. My understanding is that the Basecamp manager by default is the Vice President of Education and the Secretary. So they will get those. There's a third one, correct?
Yeah.
All right. Now we have a question coming up from Christy. Christy, please unmute yourself and tell us what is your question.
Hey, Tom. I'm quite new to Toastmaster and Pathway. I'm not sure whether I should do anything in Pathway before I deliver a speech, or is that something to do after the speech? Because Jeff mentioned about mapping the projects, and I'm not quite sure how to do that myself at the moment.
Thanks, Christy. That is a fantastic question, and it aims at the very base of the brand new educational program. Julie, would you like to attempt that one?
Yes, thank you. And Crystal, that is Christy, that is a fantastic question. One of the big disadvantages I see with people is that they don't do anything in Pathways before they give their speeches. Pathways material is rich with information. There is supporting worksheets or structuring your speeches that shows you through how to do an introduction, how to bring in transitions, how to do your conclusion. And these resources are available on Basecamp. So every project has project material that you really should read before doing your speech. There is also the opportunity to assess the skills that are going to be developed in that project before. And then at the end, you get to assess those skills again. So I thoroughly recommend that before you do your projects, you do have a look at the information on Basecamp. If you don't like reading it on the screen, there is the ability at the end of every project to print it to PDF. And then if you want to, you can print it to paper. So please use the information. There's videos, there's interactive questionnaires, and there are really good resources available online for each project. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks, Julie. A question people quite often ask about Pathways is why are the first two levels almost identical when theoretically they hold no public speaking skills. That is not true. They give us immense public speaking skills, as Julie mentioned, not only about structuring a project, but about how to deliver a speech as well. So there is a lot to be learned there. Kara, could you please unmute yourself and ask your question to the panel?
Thanks, Tom. I was just wondering if it's possible to swap pathways midway through, because I accidentally selected a different pathway in EasySpeak than I did in Basecamp, and I just recently realised it. So I've done a speech in level 2 for the wrong stream. So I'd like to make my Basecamp match what I've actually done.
Kara, I'll just get you to maybe explain a little bit more of that question, because not all clubs use EasySpeak. Did you prefer to use your EasySpeak path or your Pathways path?
I'd prefer to use the EasySpeak path.
Because changing pathways in EasySpeak is very simple, but in Pathways, well, who can tell us about that? Liz, can you tell us about that?
So changing paths in Pathways, I'm not talking about EasySpeak because I don't know about EasySpeak. In Pathways, you have a 30-day period where you can change your mind and ask Toastmasters International to swap your path. But when you do contact them, you have to tell them which path you want to change to.
Cara, unfortunately, you are out of luck. If it's been more than
Okay.
40 days, you're stuck on the
Yeah.
path you're on. Julie, would you like to add to that a little bit?
Yes, Toastmasters internationally have recently changed it to 90 days.
Still
There
too
you
too long for me. Yeah.
So the lesson,
Start a second path. You need two
Okay.
DTM anyway.
so the lesson, you have two lessons to be learned. One, do two parts at the same time, or make sure you're doing the right path in the first 90 days.
Yeah.
Thanks, Cara. Okay, we have a question from Eileen McKim. Eileen, could you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, thank you, Tom. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, yes. I have just taken on the role of BPPE, and I don't find it very easy, although I've done quite a few speeches and I've done a couple of projects in level 1. I don't find it very easy to go through the process of submitting my speeches, just because of the whole nature of pathways and the admin that seems to go with it. So I was wondering if there's an easy way that you could just explain, maybe just in a few steps, how you do it, please.
Eileen, thank you for that question. Several members have made comments about the initial release of pathways not being very intuitive, and that's possibly what you're talking about. There isn't really an easier way to do things apart from the way it's done, but nothing that's worth doing is easy, is it? Jeff, would you like to add a little bit to it? Do you have any insights on how to make lodging your progress easy?
For us, our club is all brand new club. Everyone is on pathway. So what we do, we got a big batch of people, like 18 people in 1 month, 2 months to onboard. So really what we done, we have a record one session on how to use the pathway. So later, whenever no new member on board, we will share that video. So have a look, read that through. So essentially that covers everything because that's on website, the steps you have to do. So that's what we found, try to template the onboarding material, make it a bit easier for people and also easier for officer handover. So that's our practice.
Jeff, that is absolutely awesome. Not only did we have Julie produce a how-to manual for pathways, but now we have a video library. That must be shared with the district, Jeff. So that's your next job, to make sure that everyone in the district has access to it. Keith Green, you have a question. Would you like to please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yes, when you complete a level, like either level 1 or level 2, the person that's doing it actually, it submits that somehow, don't they? And then you get this email as, congratulations, you've completed it. Is that how it works? But do you have to advise the VPE that you have completed the pathway before you get your certificate? And how do you advise them? Just email them?
Thanks, Keith, for the question. No one, I know you've faced this before. Would you like to tackle this?
Keith, normally I think what you said is you're on the right track. Once you finish the level 1 speech, you submit it, and then you get an email saying congratulations. And in our case, same email will go to the VPE. In theory, you shouldn't have to let the VPE knows because he will be checking his emails. But I know we all are busy. So I would rather send him a SMS or email saying, I've submitted I've submitted a speech. Would you mind just approving it? And then it's just a matter of him going and just approving it. Soon as he approves, yes, you will get the certificate. But then as Tom says, then the second step comes in, which is the link that you have to submit it to Toastmasters. That's when actually it gets changed on your name itself. Like if you have finished levels 2, so it will be like TLA, TL2 or something will comes in. But to answer your questions, yes, you're correct. Once soon as you submit it, then it will go to the VP, it's automated. And soon as he approves it, your certificate is ready.
Does he have to go, does he have to go, when the VPE gets notified, does he have to then go into Club Central and somehow do something in Club Central, does he?
In reality, I haven't approved it because I haven't been a VP, but I would say yes, he has to. So soon as he approves, yes, I'm sure Julie will.
Can I?
So Maury Goods from had an excellent idea. If you're a member of multiple clubs in particular, is that to keep track of your own level completions and award lodgements, and submit your level completion in Basecamp, but then separately email the Vice President of Education of your club and ask them to lodge the award on Club Central, so that sometimes club officers forget to do that. So just to send them another email, just to remind them to lodge your award. So this is separate from the certificate, which is issued by Pathways. This is in Club Central. I hope that's a little bit clear. Would any other panelists like to add a little bit to it? Julie?
Yes, I would just like to clarify that it is a two-step process. It has to be done in Basecamp, and then it needs to be done also in Club Central to count towards the DCP, and as Nuan said, for you to get the accreditation against your name. So definitely, but VPs should know that it's a two-step process. They should know that once they do it in Basecamp, they should immediately go to Club Central and do it. And really in our club, we do it as a three-step process: approve it in Basecamp, print the certificate ready for presentation to the member at the next meeting, and then submit it in Club Central. And that way you're ticking off all your boxes, and you're also celebrating the success of your member by presenting the certificate at the next meeting. And that's the sort of process that we use.
Thanks, Julian. That is actually a very interesting point you raise. With the old program, the Competent Communicator, when a member reached speech 10, we knew they had reached a milestone, whereas with Pathways, it's a lot more difficult. So printing those certificates and awarding them in a meeting is a great idea. Thanks, Julie. It was remiss of me to remind our question askers, our members, perhaps to introduce the club that they're from if they wish to. So Keith, you're from Victoria Park, is that right? Awesome.
Yes.
And, okay, next, Leon. Leon, you have a question. Please unmute yourself and ask your question to the panel.
Yeah, hello, Leon. I'm president of Rockingham Toastmasters. Under the old system, there was a lot of emphasis placed on teaching meeting roles and responsibilities, how to be a Toastmaster, how to do all of the roles in a meeting. Those roles are vital to delivering our program. Pathways does not teach those roles or touches upon them very minimally. What is Toastmasters doing to address this problem?
Okay, interesting question, Leon. I'm not sure that we can answer what Toastmasters is doing, but perhaps we can talk in general about what our clubs and members can do. It's a bit of a curly one. Would anyone like to take that one?
So Tom, maybe I can start share a bit what our club have done.
Sure.
So our VP is Marie. So what she have done really good. We got a Teams channel, and we clearly define each role in the Teams channel. The panel is same idea, template line, user template. So whenever we got to rotate people around to fill meeting roles, we will ask them just look at the meeting role that's in to know what to do. Secondly, we found sometimes when new member on board, how to do the role properly, it can be a bit challenge. So what we do is to use the general evaluator to provide some general feedback for meeting roles. And also in our club, we got another system called buddy system. So for all the members who have finished pass one, they can help the new member just on board to deliver icebreaker. So all these different ways we do as a whole to account for that. Definitely, I always advocate for it's not just pathway for the learning, particularly if you want to do like a leadership pass, club officer, fast staff on meeting roles, just offer whatever you can to be part of the agenda. So that's how we do in our club.
Thanks, Jeff, very much for that. That is interesting. I also can notice that Toastmasters International places a lot more impact on mentoring. If you notice, there is a parallel path called mentoring, and mentoring is a significant portion of level 4 and level 5. So perhaps Toastmasters is stressing that we teach those extra skills through mentoring. No one would you like to add to that?
Just to add to what Leon said, like for example, if you go to the Toastmasters website itself, I'll share the screen again. What you have is you have this nice booklet which calls meeting roles and responsibilities. And if you download it, that gives a better understanding of roles and responsibilities as well. Plus what we do is with Pathways, some of the projects is for you to use PowerPoint and do a presentation. So we would encourage our members to actually do a presentation on roles and responsibilities. So which is a tick for them. Plus it gives the club something like an educational speech itself. So that's what we use at the moment in our club, and it works perfectly as well.
Thanks, Nuwan. And I understand that the successful club series are still available to all our members. Leon, would you like to follow-up question?
I'd just like to say that there was a lot of emphasis in the past upon teaching those meeting roles and responsibilities, not only because it was essential to the delivery of our program, but because it was essential to developing leadership skills. Also, there was a reward at the end of that, in that you got a competent leader award for doing X number of roles. Now that has been completely omitted from the new system. I believe it's an oversight because they handed the designing of the training over to a private organisation, not a Toastmasters organisation. It is a real problem when a club is new and you don't have any people who have pre-existing Toastmasters experience.
So Leon, how would you suggest we solve that?
Well, I've written to Toastmasters International personally,
but at a club level, what can we do at a club level, or more or less at an individual?
Well, at a club level, if you've got people like yourself, myself, and other people who've been around in the old system who understand the roles, that's fine. We can translate that for the time being. But what happens progressively over time, as old members drop off, you've got no replacement of that body of knowledge coming through because it's not taught. It's completely absent or very minimally addressed in the system. That is a flaw in the new system.
I think, Leon, you're right that if members do leave a club, experienced members, there will be a loss of skills. I'm not sure that Pathways itself would be responsible for that, though. Julie, would you like to add to that, perhaps a different view?
I think answering questions of why is Pathways like this, or why did they make this decision, or why haven't they done that, is really something we can't do.
Oh.
All we can do, as you said, Tom, is identify the gaps and then find ways of filling them. So what we do when we're meeting in person is we actually take the information on each of the roles and we printed it out on a laminated piece of paper. And we put it next to the timer's seat, we put it next to the grammarian seat, we give it to the sergeant at arms. So every time they come to the meeting, they have a written list of what that role entails and how they need to do it. And by doing that, we're overcoming this, they will lose track of what they're supposed to be doing concept. And often with new members, we will sit an experienced member with them for the first time they do the role, and again read through this piece of paper with them and make sure that they understand it. So as I said, I think, you know, trying to figure out why or what Toastmasters decided when they did things is really outside our scope. But as you said, I think at a club level and a district level, we're responsible for finding solutions. And I think that's really where we need to go.
I absolutely agree with you, Julie. I absolutely agree with you. And I do think, though, that club officers need to emphasize to our members that clubs do not exist on their own. If we need help, we can always ask members, senior members from other clubs to help us along by either coming to our meetings or allowing us to visit our meetings. Leon, I understand you will have a little bit more to say on this topic, but we are running a bit out of time,
Yeah,
so we will move on.
Okay.
Perhaps if we have more time after the meeting, we'll explore this topic further. Keith, you have a question A follow-up question, I understand. So if you would like to unmute yourself and please ask your question to the panel.
Yeah, just to clarify, before the VPE can print out the completion of the certificate for the completion of a project, he has to approve it first, does he? Or can he print it out before that? He has to approve in Club Central first?
The member can print it out as soon as it is approved.
Yeah, but it's got to be approved before the certificate is available.
That's my understanding. Do panelists disagree?
Sorry.
Approved in Basecamp.
Yeah,
not in-
Basecamp. Yeah.
Has to be approved in Basecamp.
Yep.
So
Correct.
it's submitted by the member, it's approved by the VPE, then the certificate be printed. The entry into Club Central is independent of these two things.
The entry into Club Central is just to advise them that for points.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
Thank you very much, Keith, and thank you very much, Julie. We had a question earlier on in the chat, and by the way, if you would like to ask a question, please still raise your hand. There's still time for a couple more questions. There was a question somebody asked about, can I recycle my speeches at different clubs and at different parts? I personally find it odd. Toastmasters is the only organization where in a year we can deliver 30 different speeches, where most professional speakers will deliver 1 or 2 speeches over and over, getting it better and better every time. What is your view on that, Liz? Is it okay to recycle speeches between clubs, between levels, between paths?
Look, I think it's entirely up to the member. I try not to do it, although I have recycled some speeches from years ago. But in doing so, I don't give exactly the same speech that I gave before. And I'm always able to improve it, and you look at the feedback you got from it and make it better if you can. But I do know that people do recycle their speeches word for word, but that's their prerogative as far as I'm concerned.
Sure. I probably wouldn't encourage that either, but I did find that I recently found a copy of a speech I did 5 years ago, and I rewrote it, and I realized it is a much better speech the second time around. I'm just looking for an opportunity to deliver it at a club now. Jeff, Nuwan, you are both reasonably new members. Have you recycled any speeches yet? Nuwan first.
Tom, I think for me, yes, I have, and I will, because for example, when I did my icebreaker speech, which is my first speech coming into Toastmasters, and within 3 weeks, I was shaking and I didn't have a structure and I was all over the place. So on the way home, I was thinking, oh, how can I do? And I was doing my second speech almost. So then I went through the pathways, and then when I got the chance to do my second part, icebreaker, of course, I used some of it, but then I brought back my memories of 1-year-old memories, and I included some of those. So it's all about, you get sometimes the evaluation. It might be saying that your hand gestures were there, not there, your stage movements, your eye contact. It's Toastmasters is all about improving yourself. Content, yes, you can improve the content, but as you go through the level itself, you will be automatically improved when you are doing your second icebreaker speech. So I think it's up to the individual, and some individuals would love to improve on what they have done. It's a personal choice, and I'm not against it, I would say.
Thanks, Nuwan. In particular, the evaluation and feedback project asks you to deliver one speech, improve it, and then deliver it again. Jeff, did you deliver the same speech?
Yes, for that project, I did that. Overall, I haven't done recycle because really I tried to find work related to do. Cancel always is not a repeat, but actually going forward for my third or fourth pass, I do consider that, because previously I found maybe I'm not good at vocal variety. I'm not good at body language, gestures. Maybe for some speech content, I will try to refine, emphasize. It's more refine some skill, some speech. That topic I got passion. Talk about family, kids, all these things. I can maybe tone my tone. Last time maybe about structure, how the structure is really well, flow, transition. The next time maybe about just the vocal variety. I haven't done that so far, but I do think one stage I do want to do that to really refine my skills.
Thanks, Jeff. Sorry to put you on the spot, but I'm going to direct another question at you because you are mentioning gestures and vocal variety. Those of us who are accustomed to the competent communicator, there were specific projects for those skills, which some people believe are missing from Pathways. How did you acquire those skills? How did you develop them?
So for level 3, they do have two. There's a body language and also have a vocal variety. And actually for me, my exact problem, because my job in daytime job is an engineer, quite a boring monotone. Actually through my first pass, that's where turned out my blind spot. It's really not just about the content. It's about the way how you deliver it. Vocal variety is always a challenge for me. So for my Part 3 project, I choose that once. And the next level 3 project, I want to do the body language. Also, I'm not good at it. So really that's where I found the level 3, there's quite a lot emphasis on the engagement with audience, body language, vocal variety, a whole heaps of project can select. I would really want to do once. If it doesn't work, the next pass do again. So really just more focus on project, on the skill rather than project or level. For me, it's a process. Really, it's a platform or vessel help me to improve myself as a good communicator or for the roles as a leader. That's my why, that's my goal. All this is more like a vessel where it's best fit, I will just use it. I don't really matter that much for me.
Thanks, Jeff. So you're basically advocating that you want to get the most you can out of your Toastmasters learning. That's great. We are just about out of time. I will pass over to Julie, but I want to just leave her with one question. There was a question earlier on in the panel about meeting roles and about why would people want to do meeting roles. Julie, just very briefly, you can just address that and then we can finish off.
Thank you, Tom. And I think there's two answers to why people should do meeting roles. One, we're a club. You're not paying for a service, you've joined a club. And doing the meeting roles helps build up others in the club and helps others reach their goals. And also, every single role teaches you something new and develops different skills, active listening skills, timekeeping skills, the ability to focus on time while listening. So I encourage members to see the roles as having value in themselves and also contributing to the success of other people. In addition to that, of course, there are 3 roles that you have to complete before you can move into level 4. Now, that information is relatively hidden in Pathways, but there are meeting roles. So I think that's another reason for doing roles, but more so, I think it's the first 2 reasons. You're part of a club, people are working with you to support you reaching your goals. By doing roles, you're supporting others reaching the goals, and each of those roles has value. And I think that's something we need to communicate through educationals in our clubs.
And I also think that there's a learning opportunity in performing roles. The evaluation and feedback project focuses on giving feedback as well as incorporating it into your speech. So from the very early beginning, Pathways focuses on delivering roles at meetings and learning from them. Do you agree, Julie?
Totally, absolutely.
Awesome.
And so coming back to this other factor of we've run out of time, in the chat, I've put an evaluation form link, and I would, or feedback, sorry, not evaluation, feedback, and I would appreciate feedback from this panel. Now, Tom, I do believe that the panelists have agreed to stay on if people have additional questions. So basically, if you feel like you need to leave, we understand, but we will be here if you have additional questions you'd like to ask. I'll hand it back to you, Tom.
Thanks, Julie. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a fantastic evening. I hope you've learned something about Pathways today. I would like you to thank our panelists. Firstly, Jeff Zhang, Nuwan Wirakun, Liz Fisher, DTM, and Julie Dall, the organizer. And my name is Tom Bielski, and it's been a pleasure to moderate this panel. Thank you very much. And as Julie said, if you would like to continue this discussion, please stay on. Our panelists have agreed to stay on for a little bit longer to have a more detailed discussion. Otherwise, hope you enjoy this. Have a great evening. Paula.
Julie, this is a question for you, please. I've got some visitors coming to the club. Tell me what you say about pathways, or how I can sell them pathways, or how I can say this is what we do. I haven't got half an hour, I've got 2 or 3 minutes with them. I want to really encourage them.
To me, Pathways is all about choice. Pathways gives us 11 different options, depending on what our interests are, depending on what our goals are, and depending on where we want to grow. So for me, that's the biggest selling point about choice, about Pathways. If people are there purely for speeches, you've got presentation mastery and engaging humour. But if they want to step up and run projects and have leadership opportunities, then there are another 9 paths that they can choose from. So that's how I would address it to people. It's about choice. What are your goals? This is then the path that might suit you. And that's where the Assess Your Skills program, when you sign up, there is an assessment where you can find out which path Toastmasters thinks aligns most with your goals. So that's really, Paula, is how I would address it.
Thanks, Julie. If I may just add to that, when I joined Toastmasters some years ago, I was given the Competent Communicator Manual and the Competent Leadership Manual, and I was told this is the education program. And it's the same with Pathways. This is the education program we have, and what you put into it is what you'll get out of it.
And I think it's also worth, sorry, just coming back a bit, I think it's also worth in discussion saying that some of the projects that you can do are things like conflict resolution, dealing with negotiations, presenting public relations strategies. And I think you can add that into your discussion, because these are particularly the projects I've loved when I've been doing those paths, because they really do present challenges across the board. It's not just about public speaking. It's about using your communication skills in a whole range of real life situations. And I think that's what Pathways gives us.
Thanks, Julie. Since we have still quite a few people here listening, is there anyone in the meeting today who found one particular project challenging but rewarding? For me, it was writing a blog. I thought I was good at it and I learned so much from it. So is there any particular project that you found challenging but very rewarding? Just raise your hand like that if you like. There are enough of us on the screen. Adrian, go for it.
To me, the project which gave me the most impact was the one on emotional intelligence. And I still keep that journal because it's so helpful, keeping track of your emotions. So that was the most, it's a level 3 project and it was the most beneficial to me.
Thanks, Adrian, for sharing. Maury, would you like to add to the conversation?
Thanks, Tom. I think one of the highlights I heard tonight, it's not the first time I've heard it, but I think Leon said it well, is that the leadership side of Pathways needs a little bit more attention. So the speaking side, the project side is excellent, and I'm sure everyone agrees there are lots of opportunities in the new program that didn't exist in the old program. But from the leadership side and how we do our roles and how clubs run, there are things in the older program that have a lot of value to add. And I think the only way that will get implemented into Toastmasters is to have groups like this or a voice from each of the districts to go back to TI and say this is an area that needs attention. And so I'd just like to highlight that I think something that can come out of a session like tonight is to prepare some sort of submission back to Pathways and to say, these are all the great things that came out of this evening session, and here's an opportunity for improvement. And that's what Toastmasters is always about. So I think that's somewhere that we should promote improvement.
Maury, that's a very interesting observation, which is contrary to most of the observations I've heard. The evidence I've heard is that the current pathways focus so much on leadership and not enough on speaking. Just as an estimate, just have a think how many people in the old program completed the competent communicator, but never touched the competent leadership program. So I actually think this program is far more focused on leadership, perhaps not leadership within the club, not roles, but there are a lot of leadership opportunities there.
I agree with you. It's about, and so my focus is on leadership in the clubs and making us stronger in our club meetings by having the people who take on roles do a better job at the roles they take on.
Would any of our panelists like to contribute to that?
Tom, just to add something, like if we take Kenwick Toastmasters 18 months ago, when we started Kenwick Toastmasters, I was a complete new member for Toastmasters, and all the 8 members, I think only 1 member was experienced. So what we used is we used the club mentors. So we got Toastmasters to allocate us some mentors. So I think every club, if you are struggling, you can have 2 mentors. Plus, we did a lot of like internally role development, like with each role, what is involved, as Julie said. Even nowadays, being Julie and Graham as our club coaches, they run here and there some educational like sessions itself about different topics, roles, responsibilities. So I think it's, for us, it took us some time to learn about it, but then we kept it going. So I think it's all about how hard you want to try. And yes, it might be, because I cannot discuss about the old path because I haven't done it. With the new path, there was challenges, but I think on the other hand, there's plenty of YouTube videos and there's plenty of stuff for us to do. And sometimes we go to other clubs and see how they do it as well, just to learn. It all depends on how much time you can put in and how, motivated you are. So that's what we find.
Agreed. Thanks very much for the contribution, Nuwan. Keith, would you like to add?
Not to add, just something different.
Mm-hmm.
A question. Once a member joins, they pay their fee, and then the VPM enters them in Club Central as official member. Then how do they log in? Are they sent an ID or something to log into Basecamp? How do they start?
I know we have a wealth of knowledge here, and Julie knows everything about it because she sat with every single member of Southern River Toastmasters to walk them through this. I'm exaggerating. Julie, would you like to address this?
Okay, I've just actually got to go back in memory and figure out the process again. So once they're actually registered with Toastmasters International, they actually receive an email that gives them the information about how to do it. Basically, the story is they need to log into Toastmasters International. They request a password. They get the password emailed to them, and then they need to go and register with Pathways. This is in the email that they get. And then once they register with Pathways, then they go through the onboarding process. And the onboarding process has been changed in October last year. So it's a lot smoother and a lot nicer now for them. But yes, they should get an email with it basically telling them how to do it, Keith.
Yeah, so just get an email and they're okay. Yeah, okay, good.
But this is where we pull our mentors into this. So every new member, of course, gets a mentor, and there's the mentor's responsibility to sit with them to go through it. Keith, I have done a new members manual that we actually give our members on induction, which provides a lot more information on this. I'll pop the link into the chat. It might be worth having a quick look. I've not updated the manual for the new Basecamp layout. It's on my to-do list, but it sort of has enough to get most people started. So I'll just pop that in there.
And
Right,
Keith, as a takeaway, the manual that you'll receive from Julie will spell everything out in a simple fashion. And one thing you have to tell your new members is that they'll have a much easier journey on Pathways than you did. because every single 6 months, Toastmasters is making improvements to pathways, to the onboarding process, to the registration process. We can only look forward to many, many more improvements.
Where do I see this link?
I've just popped it into chat right now from me to everyone.
Okay.
Sherry, do you have a question for us?
Yeah, I just had another question for Nguyen. He was saying that he's only ever done pathways. So I'm wondering, does he put his hand up for roles such as grammarian and table topics evaluator, speech evaluator, all those things that used to be in the CL manual?
Yes, Sherry, because for example...
So there's no problems at all. They're still getting those roles filled.
Yeah, because we use a combination of Zoom, not Zoom, Easy Speak.
Yep.
So with Easy Speak, we can actually see what roles we have done. Like, for example, like if you haven't done Toastmaster role itself, like it will say that I haven't done Toastmaster for 60 days. So yes, we keep a track of that as well. That's part of the VP's educational like goals itself, to make sure that everyone keep track of those roles itself.
Great.
So we use that for a max. So Easy Speak, we fully use it. So that's the tool that we use to keep a track of all.
And I suspect, no one, that like some other clubs that use Easy Speak, you do not wait for members to volunteer. You allocate roles on a
We do.
rotational
So
basis.
for example, if we find Tom, like someone hasn't done SAA for like 2 months, he will be doing SAA unless he just like, he will, but we don't have that issue like people picks up the roles, because Toastmasters is all about learning, and we rotate the roles itself as well. So we don't have any problems with that.
And we'll continue this conversation further on Saturday at Club Officer Training. Okay, so that's, we've only 10 minutes over time for the time being, and there are still quite a lot of people, but nobody's asking questions.
Can I share something, Tom?
Yes, please.
We had a question today that wasn't, well, I think it was a pre-question, and it was, how do you help a member choose a path? And today I saw something on the Facebook discussion, the Facebook Pathways discussion group from somebody, and I thought I might share it. And obviously we know that when somebody's choosing a path, they think about what they want to, why they're at Toastmasters, whether it's public speaking or leadership, excuse me. And there's that online questionnaire that they do. But this person said that if a member's having trouble deciding on what to do, ask them 2 questions. The first one is, are you more interested in speaking or more interested in leadership? So if you're more interested in speaking, you suggest the presentation mastery, engaging humour, and perhaps visionary communication. If you're more interested in leadership, well, then you ask whether they are more interested in leading towards a result or an outcome, in which case there's the leadership development and persuasive influence, etc. Or if they're wanting to focus on leading a team, there's the dynamic leadership, strategic relations, team collaboration, and motivational strategies, which I thought was quite a good way of dividing up the paths. And then in addition, I don't know how many of you have heard of a chap called George Marshall in District 57. He was very instrumental in, well, District 57 was the first district to roll out pathways, and he was very instrumental in getting educational materials together and so forth. And so I'm just going to share my screen with his slide that he put up, or he shared in the Facebook, that groups the the paths into four: public speaking, light leadership, moderate leadership, and strong leadership. And then as a side, the 5 top paths that people choose. But if you're floundering trying to explain how much leadership versus public speaking are in paths, well, I thought that was quite a useful slide.
Thanks, Liz. Thanks for sharing that. It is a nice and easy, gentle way to get into pathways, isn't it? I'd like to ask our panelists about Zoom. I know some clubs have experienced a drop-off in members because the feedback has been that Zoom doesn't offer the same speaking opportunities. And yet I find that those clubs that have persisted have not only offered their members great speaking opportunities, but also leadership opportunities as well. Do our panelists agree with that or disagree with it? Anybody would like to respond to that? A non-panelist would like to respond to that? Graham, you've been silent all night. What do you think about that? Has Zoom added opportunities, both speaking and leadership?
Thank you, Tom. And just, what do I think about Zoom? Initially, I have to admit I was reluctant. Why? Because it has a lot to do with what type of speaker you are. For me, I like space. When I'm presenting, I like to use my hands, I like to use my body, I like to be all over the stage. It's very difficult to give a speech when you want to be in 3 places on the stage on Zoom. You can't do it. So the adaptation has been very different. But on the flip side, it has taught me other skills. So I think there's a balance of what Zoom brings, because if you are doing an interview via Zoom, you need to be professional. You need to know how to present professionally just on Zoom. So your whole demeanor of how you present yourself changes. So coming back to the question, I do think that some people definitely Zoom did not suit their type of style. So for some clubs, there has been a drop-off, but for other clubs, it's been on the flip side. They have got clubs from outside, I mean, you can have members that have joined from quite easily other clubs because it's so much easier to come to Zoom now. So straight away, the benefit is you can get more members a lot easier to join your meeting because it's a lot more convenient. But at the, like I said, for each and every person, I do believe there is a value on both sides of what it is. But I do miss face-to-face, I'll be very honest.
Thanks, Graham.
I have learned from Zoom. Thank you.
Thanks, Graham. I guess Toastmasters has always been about public speaking, but I think people like you and I, Graham, we have to learn to communicate on Zoom, because there will come a time very soon when Zhang is our boss, and he will find his favorite way of communicating will be via Zoom, and we will have to be able to communicate with him clearly and concisely.
It's all about diversity and inclusion. We want both sides.
That's right. Graham, you mentioned about being able to join meetings from afar. We have with us, I hope she's still here, I hope she's still listening, I hope she's still with us. We have a member of District 17 who does not live in Australia. Viola Dondo joined one of our clubs about 2 months ago from Zimbabwe. She's been a member now for about 2 months, and she hopes to be a member for a very long time. Viola, how has your experience been in attending meetings at a club that's so far away?
Thanks, Tom. I have had an amazing time. I think attending different meetings in a different country has challenged me to make sure my presentations are tailored internationally. For example, I can't just throw in vernacular words and try and translate them because maybe time doesn't allow. I have to make sure my presentation fits different audiences and is acceptable to different people. I've just been sharing on a group for my local clubs in Zimbabwe to just say, visit as many clubs as possible and present there. I was just sharing my experience presenting last Sunday and saying, this is how it was received. So everybody's saying, well done, and I've been challenging them to say, go to other clubs. The experience is amazing. I wouldn't trade it for anything, and I hope we continue being members.
Thanks, Viola. In the extreme of what Viola's talking about, one of that club's members lives in Japan, and he's a member of a club in Japan, the UK, the US, Canada, Germany, and Australia. So that's fairly extreme. I don't encourage all of us to do the same. Pat, you wanted to make a comment or ask a question?
I just want to make a comment about the Zoom. I've found, okay, about the Zoom, that in fact, for our club, it has been a really great advantage. We'd not, in a normal meeting, we'd have people cancel at the last moment or not turn up. But with the Zoom, all the younger ones really love it. And they turn up every week and they're really keen to do something. And we only have a very small minority that just haven't been able to cotton on and not comfortable with it. But it's actually been a great thing for our club, and it's kept us going through the isolation time because everybody loves coming. And basically, I think that that's something that's worth knowing, that it doesn't suit everybody, but there is a great majority that it does. And I'd love to keep on with it.
Thanks, Pat. You're in Bunbury, right?
No, I'm in Mandurah.
In Mandurah, okay. So it would make for Maury and Robin much easier to attend their meeting in Bunbury without having to drive 30+ kilometres every day.
Robin came to our meeting last night in Mandurah, so did Graham and so did Julie, and so did Karen Tregenza. So what I do is just put the invitation out to everybody. We can all learn from each other, and it's great to get some different evaluations, some different types of speeches, and it's really good for us, I think.
So is that an open invitation, standing open invitation, Pat?
I would send you an invitation anytime, Tom.
There you go. Anybody who wants to join Mandurah Toastmasters, off you go.
Yeah, you're welcome to attend. We'd love to see you.
I actually have heard of one club being worried that when the restrictions are lifted and we start meeting face to face, members will refuse to drive and they'll still want to meet via Zoom. I wonder if that'll happen.
I think you could be right.
Okay,
we have a long way to drive. I drive from Woorona to Mandurah to our meetings. So we've actually thought that we have 2 meetings a month. We might have one as a Zoom and one as a ordinary meeting face to face.
Awesome. Okay.
I have a question. If any of you now today who are facing here, has anyone has started the face-to-face meeting, or whether anyone who are the ones that are planning to go into hybrid meetings if they're going to open soon?
Yep. Banyanda has.
Who? Sorry?
And Bunbury.
Banyanda.
Can we start with Liz? Liz?
Yep. Banyanda in Maylands.
Yes.
We've started face-to-face and having a hybrid Zoom meeting as well.
Oh, okay. So
how is that working, Liz?
Yeah.
Luckily, we've got a savvy IT guy in our membership, and he and our president have been setting it up, and it's worked really well.
So you need to have expensive cameras and things like that. Something like, you need to have other, not only your laptop. When you do your hybrid, there's a bit of expense.
We've got a laptop and a data projector, and we're playing around with the microphone situation and lighting as well.
Maybe, Liz, you can ask your tech-savvy member at Banyanda to write a very brief instruction manual outlining, in plain English though, not in tech speak, on how he's done it and how it works.
Yes, he was actually on this call, but I don't think he's here now.
Murray, you'd like to add something?
Yes, we had our first hybrid meeting for Bunbury last week, and tomorrow night we're going to have our first hybrid meeting for Donnybrook. So the technology's not that savvy that's required. with Bunbury, we used 3 laptops and an iPhone. But for Donnybrook, we did a practice run tonight, and we think we'll get by with 2 laptops, and that's all for the high tech. So we'll have one. Well, there's a big screen television on the wall where we can see all the people coming in on Zoom, and in front of that television, we'll set up a laptop which has a camera which faces the audience, and we'll have the lectern as being side on with the audience, and the second laptop is on the lectern, so the speakers can, if they want, either talk directly over the lectern and therefore facing the camera on and using the speaker on the laptop, or alternatively, they can put that to the side and they can talk to the audience and rotate and face the camera on the laptop. So tomorrow night we'll have version 2 and see how that works.
Sounds complex, but probably isn't once you get it all together.
One of our...
So go on, Liz.
It's not really a problem, but that's something we've got to overcome is the timing, because the people on Zoom can't see the timing lights. And so we're using a coloured card in front of the camera for them.
Where there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah, we used the timing lights last week, and we'll do a modification on the timing lights this week, see if that works better.
Now, we're straying from our original concept, which was pathways, but I know a lot of people are concerned about Zoom as well and about hybrid meetings. So, Sherry, you wanted to contribute. And if it is about Zoom.
Yeah, just about having the Zoom meetings. Yeah,
so we'll make this the last Zoom contribution. And we'll get back
you just need the 2 laptops, one that's facing towards the speaker and one that's facing towards the audience. That should be all that you need. I'm a fan of the hybrid clubs. I gave an educational in Geraldton before this meeting, which you're all basically in Perth, and I'm sitting in York. So the idea of having Zoom meetings works really well for me. So thank you for tonight, though. It was great.
Awesome. Thanks, Sherry. I mean, Sherry. Okay. One last final chance to contribute. We've got about 2 or 3 minutes left. Most of us are either hungry or sleepy or thirsty. So if anybody would like to take the opportunity for the last 2 or 3 minutes to contribute or ask. Oh, Maury. Otherwise, thank you everybody for attending today. Hope you, oh, Julie. No, Julie, just saying bye. Thank you, everyone.
No.
Okay, Julie, go.
I did create a little fun program to help people choose a path. And this sounds like a good forum to show it. So let's have a look. So, Tom, I'm going to ask you to go through this for us.
Okay.
So what's your preference? Speeches only or more than speeches?
My preference would be to see a presentation.
Oh, you can't see it?
I guess I'm not the only one either.
No, it just says you've started sharing your screen, but we can't see it.
Okay. I've got the internet here, it doesn't work. Okay, well, I might send you the link and you can play with it. And I would like some feedback. So let me pop the link into chat.
We are Toastmasters. You will get feedback.
So I need better internet, or I need to move, one of the two.
Thank you everybody for coming today. I hope you got something out of it. I'm confident you got something out of today's presentation at a panel discussion. Our panel will be uploaded to the internet shortly. Very broad definition of the word shortly. Please accept that. When it is uploaded, you will get a link to it. In the meantime, if you have any further questions, please don't hesitate forwarding them on to Julie. She may not answer them, but she will definitely let other people in the district know so that they can get back to you. Thank you very much for attending. Hope you have a wonderful evening and good luck with your Toastmasters journey and with your club.
Well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Julie, stay on for a moment.
Yeah, we'll kick everybody else off. What do you reckon?
Yeah.
Julie, I've just watched your PowerPoint and it's excellent.
Oh, thank you.
On how to choose a pathway. So yeah, well done.